Thank you, Shocks. Gentlemen, a slightly more decisive win there for CLG this time around. But what I want to start with is these crazy level ones that we've seen now, right? We had the Braum invade on the Annie, in which the Annie team won. This time around, it looked as though it was going to go the same way. But CLG able to pull out 2 kills to 1 here at the beginning. And I know, Irene, since you were the last person who spoke about those level ones, I'm going to hand it to you again.
I think that when you have Braum on your side, you should be invading every time. And then they paired it with Olaf. It's just a great pickup there. It did look like it was going to go the other way, but then the stun came out. They lost the first blood, but they still ended up getting the 2 members and almost 3 afterwards. But when there's a Braum, you should be expecting the invade. It's what EDG did, and I think that that's kind of the strategy you should be going for, is multi-pronged.
Credit where it's due, though. I mean, when we look at the bait that paiN set up there, it was a very clever level 1 from them. Just maybe not the right team composition to do that with, I would say.
And that's where I want to kind of go with this, is as we've seen some of these interesting level 1s come out and the patterns that have been formed, and then paiN, you know, making a change based on the patterns they had seen come out, where can we expect level 1s to go? Since today seemed to have a lot more aggressive level 1s, will teams start to trend back towards the line of scrimmage? Are we going to see less, you know, trading of their jungles for lane swap warding and more straight-up fighting in the early game?
I think you should be going for the level 1 if you think you have the superior composition as many times as you can. That's why I'm like saying Braum every time. Annie, you can get it if you want. But I thought that was a very unique back and forth there in that level 1. That the fact they stood in that one brush as well, the brush by Raptors, because every time I watch a CLG game, their invade is always red side invade on the opposite side, whichever side it is, has the red, go in, send people into that bush, have other people go up, and then you place wards on the sides and just get one by the big gate, put one up above near the turret. It's always the same. And this was actually a very different one this time, where they sent 4 people and just had paiN be bait. Because then it ended up being almost a 4v5 over here, but paiN got some of that action. But definitely composition strengths. Look at your strengths right away. Can we even level 1 them? And that's what you need to do.
Like, personally, I do not like level 1s. Like, they're entertaining, but there's like...
Are they a little scary for you?
There's like this sense of, like, there's always like a gamble and a risk. And I like to be, I like consistency. And there's almost no consistency in these level 1s at all. Come on.
All right, well, consistency and efficiency for Yamato. I do want to jump into the game, though, and I want to look at what CLG may have done differently this time to have more of a steady increase in their gold lead than they did yesterday. Yeah,
for sure. Like, the Rush Hour bot lane, they're always winning their lane, but in this game specifically, they're transitioning that pressure to other lanes, which they didn't do yesterday.
I think that's something about CLG that has been a big part of how they found success in the second half of the split. Was Tristana and Ashe, I think, are their 2 strongest picks in the bottom lane, because you transition that power so easily. You start winning that lane. Even with Tristana, you're going to auto-push, eventually get the turret, and then he just goes middle lane. If you're Ashe, you get to do the same thing, and you just get to throw arrows down and always be ready to engage. Even when you rotate just a couple seconds earlier, you can still take advantage of that window. So I feel like those are 2 of the best picks on Double Lift, and it showed right there as well.
Yeah, and what I liked about what CLG did this game was they continued to keep the tempo of the game up. They kept putting pressure on turrets with the Tristana. They kept knocking down those objectives, taking the dragons. Their rotations looked much cleaner than we've seen. And that was my big point with CLG coming into this group, is could they take those early leads and adequately snowball them, play it out properly? And this time, in this game, they did. Not only that, but I want to talk about Double Lift, because we'll get another stat after this last game, but I thought Double Lift was amazing this season, in the summer split in the LCS. And in the first game of this series, he had over 1,000 damage per minute and did 47.8% of his team's damage on that Jinx in game 1. And it wouldn't surprise me, having watched that last game. It's not going to be that high, but it's going to be a significant amount. He is really on an individual level performing quite well.
Well, part of what works in combination with that is the Lulu. And that's what I want to point to, is Crepo's point about the fact that they've gotten Lulu in both games now. And is this a thing that, I mean, Lulu in the tournament has gotten such high priority, but somehow CLG has landed with Lulu on their team both times, and as a low-economy mid laner in paiN, seems like the perfect champion.
Well, he's still winning lane with it as well. Even though it's low economy, he's still shoving the opponent out of lane, winning the lane in CS and getting more pressure. And then as soon as he's just got a little bit of pressure, bot lane comes in, and then they get to do the whole take the turret thing.
Right. And we see CLG. We can ask, what are the con factors? Not only the Lulu, but fast pushing AD carries. Jinx in that minigun mode, Tristana with the explosive shot. So even though the compositions have had different aspects, to me, these were very similar compositions in the way that they played out. So fixing the game one's issues into a faster snowball of this game was a good step. But what else do they have? That's the question that's still on the table for CLG.
Now, final point here, and this is somewhat of a tournament-wide thing. With that game, Braum picks up his first win. So he's now 1-8. This is a support that's had, incredibly high priority placed upon him, and yet is not doing well. Yamato, what's your take on why teams are struggling with this champion?
I've always felt that Braum's biggest strength is in the lane matchups against these AD carries that rely on the power and their Q ability, like Sivir, like Corki, and we haven't seen that at all in this tournament almost. I don't think we have seen a single game of Corki. So that is like the biggest factor to me.
So simply that the AD carries who are strong in lane are falling out of favor.
Yeah, exactly.
Therefore, the combination is less important.
Also, Yasuo. I mean, we can talk about this. That combination of the wind wall and the unbreakable is just really, really strong at controlling the map and at stopping sieges, setting up very preferable team fights. And that's been a pick that I thought we'd see here. Not every game, but sometimes is that Yasuo coming. We've got a lot of Yasuo players in both mid and top lane in this tournament. We talked about it yesterday. But that's another champion that, when paired with Braum, really magnifies the strengths of both champions.
Yeah, I thought LGD was going to take it and put the Lulu top instead of the Malphite. Put the Lulu top, pick a Yasuo. They also had a Braum. Be a great Yasuo composition with mixed damage. Didn't go for it. Honestly, I think the fact that Braum was 0-8 before this, just unlucky.
Well, struggling. Yeah, there you go. Just
I agree.
Struggling as of yet. Now, over on Twitter, you guys have been calling out some of your highlights with the hashtag World's Big Plays. Now, Sushi Flavored sent in, what an amazing win from Origin against LGD. Soaz doing his best XPEK impression. Let's take a look.
Soaz can make up for his mistakes from last Worlds against OMG, and they're going for the main. The main kick and Soaz extinguishes the ghosts of his past. There's a berry bump for LGD, but it's gonna be enough. No way. Soaz says, I can do it better, and Origin beat LGD.
I love how Freak is like telling this story. He's extinguishing the ghost of his past, and everybody's like, "But the Baron, though."
I don't know if that was quite as dramatic as the XPEK. The game really wasn't on the line there.
Vladimir doesn't lend himself to very dramatic play anyway, where it's just like,
And also, they were going to win that game almost no matter what.
Yeah.
So maybe it was fun, but I don't know if it was
think the
legendary status.
The larger aspect of it is the fact that they won the game, right?
Yeah,
Upset a team that was looked at as maybe one of the top 3 teams coming into this tournament.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I put LGD in the top 3. Just looking at the individual skill on that roster, I think the quadra kill that came through and the fact that Origin had that wombo combo in the mid game with that was a big play for myself there. That was pretty much not so much the catalyst, but the result.
And, it has to be said, these are best of ones. We're going to see some upsets. And it's been very rare that we've seen a team actually 6-0, a group at the World Championship. So we're going to encounter some of these games. And I'm curious if this pattern's going to continue. Maybe we just got a big upset day. It certainly was fun to see the upsets today. But will that be a trend for, the next week and a half? I guess I'm not so confident that that's going to be true.
All right, we got plenty of games to go. Now, with another day of international competition in the books, let's see how the groups are shaping up. In Group A, CLG are sitting alone in first place, 2-0. Tied for second is Coup Tigers and the Flash Wolves. Then paiN Gaming is in fourth with 2 losses. Group B was off today, so Fnatic and Cloud9 are still on top over there. SK Telecom Network Gaming reign above Group C, undefeated, against H2K and the Bangkok Titans. And after their first day of play, KT Rolster and Origin are up 1-0 in Group D above China's LGD and North America's TSM. Now, that may all change tomorrow as we start the day with a clash of the Titans, Edward Gaming versus SK Telecom T1. Later on, LGD will face KT Rolster, and XPEK's Origin will square off against Bjergsen and TSM. The action picks back up a little earlier tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central European Time and 5 a.m. Pacific, so do not be late. But, gentlemen, those are some huge matches tomorrow. Let's talk about them for a brief moment.
I'm really excited about tomorrow.
I mean, we get to start the day with EDG SKT. I mean, when you look at that matchup and the way that both of these teams have been playing, we haven't seen a true test of either of them yet. So the question really is, are they going to approach this in a more standard fashion and feel each other out, or is one of them going to come out with something wild? How do you see these two teams butting heads?
It's like the real question is how far ahead are they looking? It's like how much do they want to reveal in this matchup? That is my question, because like the first seed out of the group is important, but how far are they assuming they will go regarding of their seed?
And if I was both EDG, now we've seen only a very small sample size of games. If I'm EDG or SKT, maybe I'm thinking right now, well, there's some upsets that are happening to these other teams. I'm very confident maybe against any team, regardless of my seed. Therefore, I am not going to show absolutely everything until it's necessary, right? So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a great game, but I'm not sure how much we're going to see.
I think both teams are extremely prideful. So I would not be surprised if they both came out and said, we need to beat you as a statement. It wouldn't be past characteristics of SKT and EDG both to do that. I feel like these aren't teams that go easy on an opponent just because we could possibly end up in a better scenario afterwards. I feel like they just want to crush the group as much as they can.
I think intriguing, too, is that LGD KT Rolster game.
That got a lot more interesting all of a sudden.
It did again. It gets far more interesting given the results of today.
I want to see that game really badly. Like, I just want to see, because LGD, they had very, very pronounced weaknesses. You saw TBQ get picked on in Champion Select, and then we saw they've relied on Imp. I want to see them expand. I want to see them have Godvion more of a threat. I want to see Acorn have some better TPs, too. And then you go over to KT, and, man, they dropped the ball on that one as well.
I actually disagree about KT dropping the ball. I think they had a little bit of a hiccup in that early lane swap, but then they immediately fixed a lot of the issues, and they were in pretty much cruise control of that game.
Sorry, I was thinking about Ku. I was thinking about Smeb. My bad. Yeah, Smeb someday. My bad.
Yeah. I think KT looked very powerful, very patient and reserved, and willing to allow their opponents to make mistakes. And TBQ, he made a lot of mistakes. And with these bans, is this a weakness that has been exposed in LGD? Can this be replicated if he has to get onto the Vi or a lesser jungler pick that maybe he isn't quite so good on?
Yeah, I think you keep doing that. I think you keep testing him like that until he finds an answer. Make him find the answer.
Finally, I want to go to you, Yamato.
It's like the more I think about LGD as a team, it's like the core idea is individuality. And I feel like they put all the responsibility on one person, which was Imp. I feel like they should expand that, put a lot of pressure on Acorn, put a lot of pressure on GodV, and they can play on that, because I think any team that faces LGD should try to deny that as much as possible, because as a roster, I think like individually, they're super, super good.
Of course, I'm going to close this out. Battle between NA and EU. Origin and TSM, we can't forget that. Origin had a very solid showing today. TSM, a little bit of a struggle. Quickly, thoughts on this matchup?
I agree. I mean, after seeing how well Origin played today and how good their preparation was, I feel, for attacking LGD, I expect the same thing coming in against TSM. And especially if Expeke keeps up that performance, that eliminates a lot of the threat from TSM on Bjergsen.
That's what I was going to say. The terrifying thing is that Bjergsen was the best performer today on TSM, but Expeke showed up. And so a mismatch that we thought might have been there may no longer be there. It's going to be an uphill battle for TSM. Well, stay tuned, because in just 15 minutes, Quickshot, Jat, and Officio will be here to recap all of today's action on Worlds tonight. For us, though, we need to call today on behalf of myself and the entire live broadcast team. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for more Worlds action.